Hello and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I gotta admit, I'm not a big fan of Italian horror.
And I'm Gary. And today we're going to review and discuss Manhattan Baby, which released in 1982. From writers Eliza Brigante and Dardano Sacchetti, and directed by Lucio Fulci. Ian, why don't you give us the synopsis?
Well, the story follows the Hacker family, specifically Professor George Hacker, the father. He's taken his family to Egypt, and while looking through some tombs, he is blinded by a blue laser. His daughter Susie is approached by a strange blind lady who gives her a strange amulet. As the family return to America, especially with the dad having to see a doctor for his blindness, Susie and her brother Tommy start to go on voyages with their magical amulet, and it is revealed that Susie may be possessed by a malevolent spirit.
So this was the movie that ended the partnership or the relationship between Lucio Fulci and Fabrizio D'Angelo, I think it is. They had a working relationship and they'd worked on City of the Living Dead and Zombie Flesh Eaters and The Beyond and a couple of other ones. But there was some trouble behind the scenes with this film. Apparently Lucio Fulci didn't even want to make this film. But because his producer and collaborator friend insisted on it, he went ahead and he was promised a budget of over 800 million Italian currency.
Right. I was going to say, whoa!
Yeah, not dollars, no. But the budget was halved, either just before production or during production. And so Lucio Fulci had this entire kind of idea, and he wanted to play more with optical effects instead of puppets and and gore on screen. He wanted to do some after effects on the movie, and sort of go in a different direction. But with all that budget being cut, and then, well, the film finally being what it is, he turned around and went, yeah, it's terrible. and then him and his partner split, and they never worked together again. So, so definitely some drama behind this film. But then it also doesn't help that this film also irritated Sam Raimi when it released, because the film was originally going to be titled The Evil Eye. And the studio were just like, no, we're going to change this to Manhattan Baby. Just like you've got Rosemary's Baby that did really well, so putting baby in the title, so we're just going to call it Manhattan Baby. They're like, oh, no. But for the American release, we're going to call it something else. We're going to call it The Eye of the Evil Dead. And Sam Raimi was like, hey, wait a minute. You're capitalizing on not just Rosemary's Baby, but now Evil Dead as well.
Yeah.
And I'm like, nah, it's what we do.
It's what we did. We did it with Zombie 2.
Right. But Sam Raimi found out that Lucio Fulci had no control over the distribution. And so he kind of took, I guess, pity on him and just went, I'm not going to pursue this legally. And just let it go. And, well, I think that's what most of cinema fans have also done, is kind of let this one go. Because it's not one of the forefronts of this man's career. It's not the one that everyone really talks about. It's either The Beyond or Zombie Flesh Eaters. So it's kind of interesting at least to go and look at maybe one of his lesser known movies. But I also know that you're not a fan of Italian horror. And I'm not really a fan of Italian horror either.
No, I mean, I've honestly tried. I really have over the years, like I said, I'll use Zombie Flesh Eaters as an example. Back in the day, watch Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Evil Dead, and everyone's like, oh, you got to watch this other, Italian zombie horror movie. Oh my God, it's gory as hell. And I was like, oh my God, I got to watch it. It's been banned.
The zombie fights a shark.
Yeah, oh my God, it's there's a woman, she gets a piece of splinter shoved right in her eye, and you're like, oh, fucking hell. And then I sat down and I watched Zombie Flesh Eaters or Zombie 2 or whatever you want to call it, and I was like, really? That's what everyone's talking about? Like, the only great moments in that movie are kind of the gore effects or the skewer to the eye or a zombie biting a shark. I mean, I really like the stuff set in the city with the fat zombie at the beginning and the zombies walking across the bridge, but the fact that it was called Zombie 2 because Dawn of the Dead was released in Italy and they re-edited it and rescored it and then they re-released it and then went, oh, well, we're going to make a zombie movie and it's basically the sequel to Dawn of the Dead. And I'm like, wait, whoa. You ever heard of copyright, motherfucker? You can't do that, but...
It's what we do.
That's just what we do. And so I've always tried to watch Italian horror, to get the experience, but I've never gotten through an Italian horror movie and gone, oh man, that was fucking amazing. Oh my god, that was great. Even like you said, City of the Living
Demons?
Dead. Oh man, it's like
that was the first one for me.
like Demons. I want to say it's all right.
Oh, okay, that's good. That's all right.
Yeah, but it's not amazing.
No.
You know, it's not like what other movies came out in 1982? The Thing, Poltergeist. You know, those are movies that you literally can just, if you've seen, you remember certain sequences and certain things that are said, and the movie just sticks in your head. This fucking piece of shit I was watching, man, I so wanted to turn it off 30 minutes in, 45 minutes in, an hour, and luckily it's only an hour and a half. But I understand that they lost funding and their hearts weren't in it, but just sometimes the story doesn't work in the film. The acting is so bad it doesn't work with the story. The director isn't working with the actors. You know, he's just trying to do his own little thing. And then they just... They have these ideas to try and shock the audience to go, oh, you remember that movie? Oh, yeah, that's why you watched it. And it's like, honestly, I was watching this and it felt like I was watching The Keep all over again.
Oh, wow, yeah. Yeah, I hear that. Now, the film, one of the things I always have when I'm thinking about an Italian horror, the first thing that comes to my mind is weird colours.
Yeah.
Insects.
Yes.
And snakes.
Okay, right.
The opening shot of this movie was a scorpion. I was just like, tick first box.
Tick first box.
And we get introduced to George, who picks up this scorpion. He puts it in a little container, and he's like, that's for my kid. Yeah. I was like, what?
Okay, yeah.
And he's like, right, I'm driving off now. See you. Oh, okay. And so clearly they must have been inspired by The Exorcist, because we know there's a sort of supernatural tale here.
Yeah.
And we're in Egypt, and he's I'm not sure actually what George's job is.
I think he's an archaeologist, and
he's not a cryptologist or something. I don't know.
He finds a weird stone, and the stone's got some markings on it, which they're really excited about because, you know,
might decipher something.
Yeah, and it's gonna uncover all these different and the script was just so badly written. I didn't care that he'd uncovered this stone.
Well, it's the fact that he didn't really show that much excitement in his discovery. As a matter of fact, no one really did. It was just kind of matter of fact. It was no.
It's like they're told as well, yeah, you can't really go into the tomb because people say that there's a curse on the tomb. And George is like, well, I'm going anyway. And his buddy's like, well, I'll come with you.
And here is our first extreme eye close-up.
Yeah.
I was just like, yeah, okay, that's standard Fulci, but I didn't quite expect it to be quite the fetish that it is in this film.
Oh,
is
so
the
bad.
Extreme eye close-ups. Now, granted, the original film style was the evil eye, so I can kind of understand why that is. But when you're watching the film called Manhattan Baby, I'm like, well, we're in Egypt. Yeah. There's no baby. Yeah. And we've got all these close-ups of eyes.
Man, do you know, I know everyone complains that I do wiki my movies. I wikied this movie.
Of course you
and
did.
The wiki was more fucking exciting than the fucking movie.
Oh, I bet. Like, explaining this film, it will make it sound more exciting. but the plot you can surmise really quickly because this movie doesn't really have much of a plot.
No.
It just goes, here's the setup. Now strange shit's going to happen for the rest of the runtime.
Yeah.
Now, George is here in Egypt with his wife and his daughter. They've left their son back home in New York.
Yeah.
And I was trying, I've watched the film twice now. Okay?
Yeah.
And I still don't think that whatever he has unearthed is the same thing that's happening to his daughter. Because the mum leaves, what's she called? Susie?
Susie, yeah.
The mum leaves Susie for a moment, and Susie wanders around, and then she gets approached by this blind lady, or the lady with white eyes.
Yeah, yeah.
And she gives her this talisman and says, the crypt are for the dead. I was like, well, yeah, no shit, right? And the girl's like, oh, I've got this thing. And then mum comes back, can't find Susie, runs around, eventually finds Susie. But also we've had this imagery of the sand sort of disappearing.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, George is, going deeper into another crypt. And he sees this weird snake thing that he spins around, which opens up a secret passage, which also shoots a snake out of the wall.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute. how old is this crypt?
Yeah.
How long's that snake been in there?
They fucking shoot. I felt bad for that fucking snake.
Oh, yeah, that was a real snake.
That was a real fucking
they
snake.
Actually killed.
And they shot it on screen.
Yeah.
So when I got to the end of the film, I was like, you ain't going to see that no animals were harmed in the making of this fucking movie.
No.
Fucking the snake was a better actor than most of the people in this film. But going back, I mean, that sequence with the blind lady, you know, she disappeared at one point, didn't she? Because there was this really wide shot. And there's a lot of wide shots, especially in the beginning of this movie in Egypt. And it looks nice, you know, the director has really gone, oh yeah, I really want to encapsulate
I think
a lot of
the
this
cinematography
stuff.
is actually quite cool, especially the Egyptian sort of landscapes. The cinematography's nice, the lighting's good.
Yeah, that's good. But the close-up stuff, especially with Susie as well, when Mum comes back and Susie's like, I'm here. And it's like, what's all this about? You know, we then, like you said, we're cutting back to Dad in the crypt with his buddy. A trap door opens and him and his buddy fall down and his buddy hits the spikes at the bottom like a fucking Mortal Kombat trap.
Right, hell yeah. I was like, well, it's 10 minutes in and somebody's already got a spike through the eye. I was like, yeah, I'm watching a Lucio Fulci movie.
Watch out!
That was a pretty good special effect with that body,
yeah,
you know. But Dad's down there and he sees this kind of Eye of Horus kind of Egyptian thing on the wall and it shoots a blue laser in his eye and blinds him.
Yeah. Then we see him stumble out a little bit later and fall over. But I was still taken aback. Like, he's down there with his friend who's dead on the spikes and he's like,
Yeah.
It's like, it's just no reaction
no
at all.
care.
It just carries on.
No
Like,
care.
but I kind of like, because there's so many like non-reactions to shit happening in this film by the characters, so it kind of it felt like a dream. And as the film would carry on, it envelops this dream-like quality about it. This sort of ethereal, unnatural, supernatural feeling over it. And whether it's because it's the slow pace, the meandering edits, or the wide cameras coupled with the extreme close-ups of eyes, the whole film just felt muddled and incoherent.
Yeah.
And like I said, I didn't know whether the stuff that George was doing and the stuff that happened to Susie at the beginning actually was the same thing or not.
I just assumed it was because I wanted the fucking film to end. I just went, let's keep going.
Yeah.
And the fact they head back to America so that George can see the doctor. Why the fuck did he have to put sunglasses on over his bandage eyes?
It's not even just sunglasses, it's just normal glasses.
Normal
at one point.
like, George, you can't see. Nobody cares. What are you trying to... You can't hide the bandages.
It made me laugh every time. It was just ridiculous. I was like, what are you doing?
But we get back to America and we're introduced to Tommy, the little brother of Susie. And Susie's got this magical medallion, you know, and their nanny, Jamie Lee, takes care of them, don't they?
Jamie Lee, not Curtis.
Yeah, Jamie Lee Knocker.
Who's the babysitter.
And Mum's dealing with Dad, you know, because Dad's still trying to do his job and he can't remember or he doesn't really talk about what goes on in the crypt. Like you said, no reaction at all. It's not like he went, oh, you know, my best friend died in there or
I've made a discovery of a lifetime.
You know,
like there's a wide shot of that rock that they found just completely abandoned.
Yeah.
Like, it's like they didn't even take it home or whatever.
They didn't, yeah. But the film keeps pushing forward this idea that Tommy and Susie, now with this magical medallion, can go through like a portal and go anywhere they want. Primarily Egypt.
Yeah.
They just keep going back to Egypt.
It starts with Susie going, I've got a premonition. There's going to be storms or lightning tonight.
Yeah, yeah.
Mum's like, whatever. Go to bed. And we get the thunder and lightning storms in the middle of the night. And Susie's like, Mom, Dad, I want to stay in your bed. And they're like, no, go to bed.
Go to bed.
Child.
I was just like, what the fuck?
And she wanders outside and then she looks up and goes, oh, I didn't see that before. And then starts screaming as we see a giant medallion, I think, hanging in the window outside by a tree or something.
Well, was it hang? Because it felt like it was
maybe it was a reflection of
reflecting from the wall, but it just kind of appeared. And then Susie screams and passes out, and Mum comes running down, and she's like, "Oh my God, we need to take care of her." And I'm like,
right. But then Susie has the medallion again, and then we know it's bad because the music stinger just goes dong, dong, dong as she puts it in the drawer. And then Tommy ends up like in a trance, walking towards the door that's now
a
big bright light.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, not Tommy, you can't take
So
him.
bad, slow motion.
Tommy disappears behind the white light, and then then she starts screaming.
Yeah.
Then Dad wakes up and he's wandering around the house blindfolded with it, trying to find it. And so for some reason, Tommy has written in the mirror, like, Daddy, help me.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, because he could read that. Like, why is that even there? How about Mommy help me? Seriously.
Man, I don't like Italian music used in movies. And Fabio Frizzi, who did the music for this movie, really should not have had any more work after this movie.
Well, is that because he just reused the score from The Beyond
all
over again?
I don't know. I've never seen The Beyond, so I'm going to assume yes.
He literally, he didn't lift the entire score, but he definitely borrowed from his own music very lazily.
What did he do? Ring James Horner?
You go, how did you keep making so much music so quickly? Easy, you just change a couple of notes and re-release it.
But there is just some really bad sequences of music, especially this fucking saxophone bit that just keeps playing.
I was like, can the demon go get that saxophonist? God damn it.
I mean, at one point, I thought it was just in the background. I thought it was on the radio, or when they're walking through the streets of New York, I thought, oh, it's going to show some guy playing a saxophone. No, it's just ambient music.
It's always the saxophone and then police sirens as well.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so that's the film's way of going, we're in New York. Oh, okay. We're definitely not in Egypt.
Sure you should?
Emily, I have to find out what it was that I saw in that tomb.
There's just no real like tension or fear, and then when you start to see people getting killed off, they are just such a waste of film to put these deaths on screen.
I really quite like this sequence where Jamie Lee, not Curtis, is babysitting again, and another random snake appears, and so she screams and calls for security.
Oh God, yeah.
And security's like, oh, I've just woken up. What's going on? I'll be right up.
I thought he was the dude from fucking Demons.
Really? Yeah, it may have been. And he gets in the elevator, and then the lights flicker, and then the elevator starts making noises.
Why? Why does this thing attack this elevator guy?
I have no idea. Like, I mean, it's inconsistent. It's incoherent. It doesn't make sense. Like, nobody else in the film even knows that the security guard disappeared. Nobody even realized there was a hole now at the bottom of this elevator. And that's what happens. The elevator collapses. And if you look at the background now, we got this in HD. You can see sort of like the black sheet behind it.
Yeah.
So bad. But then the same thing as like the babysitter was being attacked by a snake, and that's dropped as well.
Yeah.
We don't even find out what happened to the snake.
Tommy.
Honest, I didn't mean to frighten you like that.
Yeah.
So it didn't even matter. Didn't even happen. It's a
even
dream.
matter.
It's just a dream.
Well, we forgot as well to mention that when Dad went up to find Tommy and Susie, he got shot in the eye by another blue laser, which has healed his vision now.
So is there a good demon now?
I fucking don't know.
Was there one trying to help to fight the other?
Why is there a blue laser?
Well, he probably wanted better effects because the budget got slashed and that's all they got.
But why did it blind him and then unblind him?
If we don't know, and the film will never explain this either. Really, I mean, it doesn't. I'm sure it doesn't.
But Emily Hacker, the mum, I think she's a news reporter or she works for a paper. She works in some kind of fucking office.
With typewriters, yeah.
Yeah. And the guy that she works with is just a massive, huge comedian. Luke, the comedy guy, you know, he's got those weird goggles, fake nose, and he's all about fun. And so then when Mum gets a phone call from Jamie Lee telling her that the children are missing, you know, and she's afraid to go upstairs. Mum races back, and Luke's like, I'll come back with you, because secretly I think I'm flirting with you, but I really want to help. And there's a weird kind of relationship going on there. And they're there, and then Luke's just like, well, I'll go up. I've got magical powers. I can open up their bedroom door. And he walks up the stairs, and he's saying all these weird,
abracadabra, voodoo,
magical words just to have fun. And then he opens up the bedroom door and is teleported to Egypt.
Open sesame!
Luke!
And we find his body, like, dehydrated and dead somewhere in the sand. Yeah. I'm like, is he traveled through time and space? Did he teleport? Is he on our planet? Is he in the beyond? I don't know.
Why is there a magical teleporter in these kids' fucking door?
Who's doing it? Who's controlling it? Because there's a sequence later where Tommy sat there reading, is it Jawbone? Like, I don't know, there's an article for Jawbone. I was like, what in the hell is that? Like an unofficial Jaws sequel knockoff made in Italy that we never knew about?
Yeah.
And they're asking him about, like, where are you going? Where's Jamie Lee Not Curtis? So, she's on a voyage. She's on a...
She just hasn't returned yet.
Right? And then they're like, oh, but we've been on voyages too. And occasionally the whole room fills up with sand. And then they take a sample of the sand, and he's like, this sand's from Egypt.
Yeah.
Oh. And so, but again, with the budget being massively reduced, and we also found out that Lucio Fulci also had other scenes and other things that he wanted to film and to explain some of this stuff, but unable to. So we get an explanation from Tommy, but we don't actually see it happen.
No.
Other than that one time he did walk into the white door light.
Yeah. But it's like Mum and Dad are talking about Luke disappearing. But like we said, there's no... From the actors, you know, Christopher Connelly playing the dad and Laura Lenzi playing the mum, they don't emote enough to make you care that Luke has fucking just disappeared off the face of the planet, that Jamie Lee Not Curtis has fucking disappeared off the planet, you know, that the daughter is freaking out a lot of the times and has ended up in hospital, and Tommy's talking about magical teleportation. I mean, they take a picture of Susie, don't they, in the middle of the park while she's roller skating, and it just shows the necklace.
And then some random woman finds the necklace photo, writes the name of a guy on it, then randomly throws it to the mum, and then disappears out of the movie. And the mum eventually finds the letter, reads it, finds out who the guy is, and then they go and visit him. And then he comes to the house, and he's like, leave me alone with your daughter.
Leave me alone with her.
Yeah, don't forget the other guy that just somehow, like, some of the characters don't even get explained. I was getting real confused who was who, and there was this one guy with a beard.
That's right.
Who's at the museum or something, and he gets bitten in the face by a snake, and he ends up with the photo in his hand. But then the photo magically teleports into Susie's hand.
Right.
Like, what the fuck?
Why did it kill him? Why did it need to kill him? Why did it have to send a snake? How did the snake get from the floor to bite his face? I don't know.
It was kind of a cool POV shot, but I mean, you could just fucking...
It was, I mean, we're so used to killer POV shots, right?
Yeah.
But watching the POV shot move like a snake, I was like, well, this is different. I'll give you that.
And so Adrian McCarto, the antiques dealer, like Gary said, he says, I'm going to come to the house and I'm going to help your daughter. And he goes in there. I mean, I was real losing fucking interest. I kept telling myself to put my phone down and pay attention to the film. And then my brain was like, fuck this! And kept picking my phone back up. But he tells them to leave the room while he's there with the daughter. And then they come back into the room and he's speaking with the voice of the daughter and he's got blood on him.
While he's convulsing on the ground,
yeah. And I was like, what the fuck's going on? Is this like
they body
Exorcist
swap something?
now,
Yeah, it is like Exorcist, where he's now taken the demon that's possessed. Oh, by the way, because the English title for the film was The Possession.
Oh, right.
So, because apparently the little girl was being possessed this whole time.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. And so now he's taken this evil entity into himself and he goes home.
Yeah. he takes the necklace. He explains about this evil, malevolent spirit, Anubis, or some Egyptian god, or something.
It's like 5,000 years old.
Yeah, and it's attached itself to the soul of the daughter. But now he's going to take the necklace and remove the spirit and take it upon himself. And so then he goes back to his place, and while he's writing, because it emphasizes that he has dead birds, you know, and he likes to obviously stitch them up and pose them in really great poses and whatnot. And they come alive and decide to attack him.
Just the one at first. But then there's 3 of them. And I was honestly waiting for them to peck his goddamn eyes out and eat them. I was like, this is a Lucio Fulci movie. Here we go.
Yeah.
But now we get to see them biting out of his neck and huge gash on his forehead. But no, but I do like one of his lines that he delivers.
Right.
I think he says something like, "Birds of darkness consume me." Just, oh wow, he's really at least he's given it in his all in his performance, like compared to everybody else. But that absolutely lifeless.
But that bad saxophone that came with it over his dead corpse, I was like, what? Didn't somebody in the editing suite go, this music does not work with this death sequence?
We can't afford any more, so.
And it turns out that Dad sees the necklace, and he's told by Mercato before he dies to take it and just throw it into the river. And so he does. He goes to the river and he drops the necklace down. And then it cuts to Egypt, and the blind woman is handing another necklace, or the same necklace, I fucking don't know at this point, to another child.
And so the cycle continues. I was like, well, I mean, so exactly. So that's why I'm like, so George being in that other temple or crypt or whatever had no correlation, because it's all about the woman with white eyes just handing out cursed talismans.
Or maybe it did. They just cut the sequences out and they never filled them in the process.
Maybe, yeah.
Because for an hour and a half, this felt like a fucking 3-hour marathon, and I just, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Ian, what were your favourite scenes from Manhattan, baby?
I struggled to really enjoy any of the film, let alone actually sit there and go, man, that was my absolute favourite sequence. But the guy falling down the trap at the beginning and landing on the spikes, that was a pretty cool death. You know, I like the cut from him going to the dummy, you know, and I almost sat there thinking, man, they just killed that guy off. You know, he came to film one day and they just threw him on some spikes. There's a bit where Jamie Lee is freaking out because she can't find the kids, and then Tommy comes around the corner wearing some stupid little rubber mask, and the kid playing Tommy, like, I know he's trying. It's 1982 and he's trying to be a good actor. He just wasn't. And on top of that, the bad dubbing.
It's the bad dubbing.
On top of it.
I saw him in The House by the Cemetery years ago. And he wasn't bad in that. But he also had a completely different voice actor dubbing him in that one. So seeing him in this one with the voice dub, I was like, this is just weird.
I'd have just preferred it if the whole film had just been in Italian.
Yeah, and
with
subtitles.
That would
for
have
sure.
been so much enjoyable.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the sequence with the security guard going into the elevator and the floor falling away and him falling to his death, it's fucking stupid. But it was memorable. The rest of the film, waste of fucking time.
Yeah, I enjoyed the first 10 minutes of this film. All the stuff set in Egypt was great. Like, from the opening desert shots to the pyramids to the Sphinx to some of the, I don't know, monasteries or some of the places that they go to in Egypt looked really, really cool.
Yeah.
You know, going into the crypt as well, the tunnels, the dark, the traps, you know, the snake jumping out and... You know, not the murder of the snake, but then the spike trap. I really enjoyed all that stuff. I really did. But then, as soon as we get to New York, that's when, for me, the film just dives, minute by minute. But the elevator security guy sequence, that made me chuckle quite a bit. Quite like that. So it's him desperately trying to get the elevator doors open.
Like, he bloodies his fingers trying to open the door. It's like...
He's trying, man. He don't want to die. So, yeah, I felt sorry for him.
Yeah.
And, I mean, nobody even mourned or even noticed that he was gone. So that upset me.
Nobody even cared about Jamie Lee. Like, her
They
body
find her arm that falls through the wall all decomposed.
Well, that's it. Did she teleport away and then teleport back into the wall? Or does she just teleport into
that's
the
why
wall?
I'm like, how far are they going on these voyages? Are they going through time and space? Is that why, that's why she's aged so much? Is that why the guy in the desert, the comedian guy, Luke, like, how long was he out in the desert for? Because he only just went and now he's dead.
Yeah.
So, unexplained.
Yeah.
I loved George wearing his glasses over his bandages the entire time. Just every time, just laughed. And the final sequence, the death by birds, by being pecked to death.
Yeah.
Pretty viciously, I might add, because you get the POV camera of him and just these birds just attacking the lens.
Yeah, the bit where it bites his neck and kind of
pulls out all the
flesh and
chunks. Yeah, I mean, if you look carefully, you can still see some of the strings pulling these things.
Yeah,
But I
totally.
would still rather that than some CGI crappy birds. So it worked for me. Ian, you recommend Manhattan Baby?
hell no. But then at the same time, I'm not going to diss anybody who is going to go, well, I need to watch some Italian horror to get some experience. You do. I found nothing in this movie redeemable. I mean, at least it's not fucking 2 hours of some guy sitting in a sewer for fucking 4 years.
As that.
But it was incoherent. There was no emoting from the actors. The music was really bad. The story's all over the place. It just... By the end of the movie, I was so glad it was over just so that I could just turn it off. I didn't enjoy a single minute of it. Some of the jokes fell flat. Some of the deaths were just not really well constructed to make me go, oh, I'm really sad that person's dead. But like I said, I'm not going to diss anybody who goes, oh, Ian, you're wrong about Italian horror. You should watch this and watch that. And I should watch probably more of the better known ones, if I can use rabbit fingers for that. But this, no. I want to stop thinking about it, Gary.
Yeah, I'm also not going to be recommending Manhattan Baby, as I found this film slow and nonsensical and boring at times. It was absolutely lifeless. The plot is really bare bones. There's many elements that don't connect together in a coherent way, and the demonic curse or the forces of evil they're really poorly explained and confusing. And the performances were stilted, wooden, and lacked urgency at times. And the bad dubbing and constant framing of eyes and close-ups, it really didn't help either. The music was all over the place. Yeah. It reused the score from The Beyond, and it mostly irritated me how the music would transition to synthesizer, back to the New York jazz sound, and then back again. It really didn't work for me. Along with the heavy-handed stinger cues for the highlighted of supernatural events,
yeah,
it didn't work for me. It really didn't. I did find myself, though, enjoying some aspects of the film, mainly the dreamlike nature. It's almost as if the film has a way of putting you in a similar trance to the characters. It was at times pretty mesmerizing, but the horror aspects were fairly tame. Nothing majorly shocking other than the real snake death. But the final bird attack moment was worth making it to the end of the film. I didn't hate the film, honestly. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. It may be worth a watch, as this film has its fans, but for me, I would absolutely pass on another rewatch.
Yes.
It's looking at you from hell. Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.